Welcome into another episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, the real underscore G Warner, and still trying to figure out the setup in my new apartment. But whatever, we're here, we're doing it, and we're doing it live. Going to go through the second half of match day 3 in the World Cup. It is late night with the real underscore G Warner on Twitter, but that's what we're doing. I hope everyone can get to this before the matches start. Luckily, we're a little bit later at a 9 a.m. Central time start for these knockout rounds, or excuse me, the simultaneous games. No more 4 a.m.s, thank God. You can probably see my eyes right now. It has been a rough stretch, but fortunately, the wins have come in. I'm actually solo tonight for anyone listening via the pregame.com podcast network. It's just me tonight. Mackenzie, I'm sure he's busy, and I'm sure everyone's going to really miss his pronunciations of very difficult names. And I will try to continue the way that I normally do it, and maybe make a couple shout outs to him as we go. But same kind of format as usual, at least what we've been doing for the World Cup. I'm going to go through each of these matches and try to highlight something that I want to do. Come out with a best bet for the episode, and then get you out of here hopefully in 30 minutes. Thanks if you're, I guess, listening via the pregame.com or pregame RJ Bell's Dream Preview pregame podcast network. It's late. Give me a break. Thank you for listening there. Or if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel or on Spotify or my own Apple podcast for Betting the Pitch. I appreciate all the support and would love to get as much of it as possible. All lines quoted in this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early. Reduced juice is offered on almost every game you want to bet, right up until game time. Please follow the link found in this podcast description below to fund your account. Use the promo code GW50 to receive a 50% match bonus up to $1,000. You probably find this within my YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts for Betting the Pitch descriptions. With that said, also going to give out a promo code for pregame as well. I'm trying to get my picks out each night, so you guys don't have to wait till game time. Obviously, that's your decision, but I would suggest getting in and trying to play the stock market effect of betting soccer. I feel like that's one of the most fun spots, and you can get some 1 1/4s that drop to ones that end up pushing when you would have won half of a bet. So it does matter, and I'm trying to get that stuff out as soon as possible instead of waiting till like midnight or so. So keep looking. I try to tweet about it if I do it, and I'll try to keep doing that because we just added a World Cup package, which should get you everything I do for the rest of the World Cup. And I've had a pretty good run of having a play on every day, and the plays have been going pretty well so far. Don't have that exact record in front of me, but it's a good one, and I will find it while I'm multitasking during this podcast. So without further ado, I'll get into, this is Thursday, December 1st, World Cup matches. I got to pull up the World Cup standing just so I have that in front of me. But we'll start with the opening match, or at least the first rotation number listed, and that's Croatia against Belgium. Was thought to be a match for essentially the group winner, which it could be decided here. Croatia currently on top at 4 points with a goal differential of 3. Morocco on 4 with a goal differential of 2. Then Belgium on 3, and Canada are limited on 0 points. Everyone probably wants to play Canada in this round, but Croatia and Belgium are really going at it to see who can advance. The winner will leapfrog over the other. And unless Canada really plays spoiler, Morocco's in great shape right now. Currently, the Croatia-Belgium number is a pick'em. And actually was Croatia favored for a lot of this week. And now it's kind of flipped in the juice, at least at Bet Online, where Belgium are a slight favor on the pick'em. So, I mean, it's basically calling these teams equal. But I'm looking to back Croatia if this keeps moving. I don't think we'll see a quarter of a goal, and I don't think I really want to play it at pick'em. But I don't really like at all anything I've seen from Belgium this entire tournament. I think a lot of people expected that they were aging and this wasn't going to go well for them. But I don't think anyone really expected it to be this bad. And it's been horrible. So Croatia have a great midfield. They're going to control the ball, they control possession. And I feel like Belgium are really going to have to push to win, because a draw will only get them level with Morocco if they lose to Canada, but they're 3 behind in goal differential. So that would take a pretty heavy loss from Canada. So I would expect Belgium to really come out and try to score. which also impacts my under 2.5 lean, which is very juiced at the moment. But that was going to be the pick I would have made on the game if I had to do one. Still don't think that's impossible for it to finish under 2.5 goals. But I think that the strategy of Belgium will be to be on the front foot and try to score goals. That's not different than how they normally play. But I think they're going to be even more, they're going to be risking even more and putting themselves at risk. Croatia, unfortunately, I don't know that I've been as satisfied with watching them so far in this tournament. Going behind early against Canada was really not great, but they responded really well to that and had a pretty boring opener against Morocco, but didn't realize that the whole crowd would be Moroccans there. So that's something to think about, and especially as we get to the next matchup on Thursday morning, and that is Canada and Morocco. Currently, that number is Canada getting a half of a goal. It looks like it's the more reasonable juiced one. So Morocco, half a goal favorite, over under is 2.25. And I'm very disappointed. I mean, besides Denmark, who I think take the crown for the worst team in this tournament versus expectations, I think Canada are pretty close up there because I thought they're going to play a pragmatic version of football that they played in CONCACAF and were honestly great at it. It worked really well. It got them into this tournament. They won CONCACAF over, I mean, not exactly giants, but giants in CONCACAF of the United States and also Mexico. But they've played really kind of recklessly this whole tournament. I got to say, they outplayed Belgium, and I thought they were trying to play with the ball aggressively because they spotted something in Belgium, but then we return back to kind of what they had played in CONCACAF against Croatia, because Croatia is such a good nation with such a strong midfield. But I got to say, they didn't do any of that. They played the same reckless brand of football. They got them an early lead, which was great, but you would have thought that they might have tried to get on the brakes a little bit. Once they had their lead, they were in great shape. They'd already let one game where they essentially dominated from start to finish, and they already lost that to Belgium. So I thought this was going to potentially be a return to what we saw in CONCACAF, but it wasn't. And one goal from Croatia led to a second, both, I think, right in quick succession, right before halftime, which is the worst time to concede. I guess it's probably worse in the right after halftime, but still not great going into the locker room when you worked that so hard and had such a great start, scoring in like the second minute, only to enter the locker room trailing, and then things only got worse from there. I've been really disappointed in Canada, and I feel like they're going to be even more reckless in this one because they have nothing to play for. I guess they'd probably want to play spoiler potentially, though I don't think there's any bad blood between Canada and Morocco. Forgive me, my geopolitics is not perfect, but I don't know that those two countries really interact too often. But I think they're just going to try to play aggressively like they did in those first two matches. But those were against really good teams, better than Morocco, at least in the rankings or expectations, what the market was saying. So I think Canada's going to be very reckless, and that makes me feel like I don't want anything to do with them. So it'd be Morocco as a favorite, which I don't love either because I haven't been that impressed by them. Morocco as a favorite, or I guess over would be the strongest lean for me, over 2.25. I just don't know that I really feel great about either of those. So we're going to look for some bets in the afternoon games. And it's very likely I'll have some because I really like both the dogs and the unders. So I'll get into this one. So we have, I guess it's Group F. Excuse me, that was Group F. This is Group E. Interestingly enough, they're just going in backwards order, I guess, because the draws of Germany and Spain being such big nations in here. I don't know. FIFA's doing stuff for money, of course, but Costa Rica, 2.75 goal favorite right now to Germany. I guess I should say the positions right now. So Spain on 4 points, Japan on 3, Costa Rica on 3, but with a -6 goal differential. And pretty much essentially they're going to lose any tiebreaker. And then Germany only on 1, sitting bottom of the table. Everyone's alive. Everyone can do something here. And seeing Germany a 2.75 goal favorite with only a draw on the board coming from behind against Spain, that seems weird to me. I get it. I backed Costa Rica and the under when they conceded 7 goals and lost 7-0, gave up a touchdown to Spain. But things got ugly kind of early and they kind of spiraled. And certainly that's something you could expect here with a spread this enormous in the World Cup. But I think Costa Rica really showed what they were made of against Japan. They still conceded possession and let kind of Japan go out and try to make their own offense rather than relying on a counterattack. And that worked very well, I thought, for Costa Rica. Got them that 1 goal off a turnover with a great shot from Joel Campbell. And then that was it. They went back into their same type of format or I guess, their setup that was just trying to deny everything. I think they're going to do that to Germany, and I think that Germany is going to have a lot of trouble, unlike Spain, because Spain is really good at possessing the ball and creating avenues. Germany just want to run at you as fast as they can, and they have very fast wingers to do that. But the pace doesn't really matter when you have 11 men behind the ball, like Costa Rica will likely have. They're going to be tired, and it's going to be a really tough effort. But Costa Rica, if Spain beat Japan and Costa Rica get a draw, they are through. So I think that Costa Rica would love to win this match, but I mean, maybe after a 7-0 thrashing, you play for pride more so than to win 3 points, but it worked really well. And I feel like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you just got 3 points, got a huge win in the World Cup, I think there's a good chance that Costa Rica, who've had some good World Cup success in the past of getting through group stages, even with really tough teams in them. I like the 2 3/4. Also seeing an over under at 3 3/4 is just monstrously high. I don't think we've seen anything above maybe 3 1/4 earlier in this tournament. So it's a half a goal higher. Germany certainly need to work on goal differential potentially if they get in a matchup with Japan. But ultimately, if they win this match and Japan lose, they only have to win 1-0. So I don't know necessarily where this line comes from. I got to say, it really just seems to stem off of how viciously Spain disemboweled Japan. I don't mean to say it that loud, especially if you're listening live at 12:20 Central Time. But I think we're really overreacting. I mean, we definitely market overreacted and made them, Costa Rica, a half a goal favorite, or excuse me, half a goal underdog higher, at least after for the Japan match after the Spain loss. I don't agree with that, and I feel like this might even, I mean, more of the juice right now at Bet Online is on Costa Rica, but this could honestly hit 3. I wouldn't be shocked by that, and I think I'll probably hang out for that number because I don't really see a huge difference between 2 3/4 and 2.5. Because it's probably Costa Rica losing 1 or 2-0 is my expectation, which does also work for under 3 3/4. Next, and the last one for Thursday, Japan and Spain. Currently, Japan a 1 1/4 goal underdog. Over under is 2 3/4, which is still pretty high. I think based off Spain's first effort, but this was kind of the same total against Germany. Japan is not the threat that Germany are for scoring goals, but I honestly like them as a team to bet or a side to take the spread with more than Germany, because you get a higher number, and I think they're built like perfectly to play a defensive style. And I honestly was very close to putting them through Japan, that is, to get through the group. I didn't feel like they could get enough points or get a win where Germany probably should against Costa Rica, and I thought they might even get that against Japan. Well, and I guess the Spain match was also a toss-up. So, but we're here, and Japan are in great shape. If they draw, they're probably going through, barring a Costa Rica win. So I think this plays really well into Japan's perfect scenario, which is to sit back as deep as you can and counterattack. They looked so fluid and so good at it against Germany, especially, I mean, when their goalkeeper is scary, but when he made a big mistake, allowed a penalty, didn't really seem to phase them. They stayed in their lanes. They did exactly what they were supposed to. They went and scored a goal, and then scored another. And I don't think that they're afraid of anybody. I think Daichi Kameda is one of the best creators right now in midfield in all of Europe. And I think no one really knows him, and people just assume Japan can't play soccer, but I think they can, and I like them hanging around the Spain. Spain's going to have 1,000,000% possession, and they're going to have 1,000,000 passes completed. That's what I was really going for. But I don't think they can pass the ball in the net as efficiently as they did against Costa Rica. I think Japan are a threat to potentially win this match, which probably wouldn't be great for an under lean under 2 3/4, but I like that too. It's very juiced at the moment, but 2.5 to 2 3/4, again, a little protection on a 3-goal result. But ultimately, at this point, I'm kind of trying to turn over a new leaf and trade some of the heavy juice in this sport to try to get a little bit lower, so that the percentages that I hit are as more profitable than they currently are. Now we'll move to Friday, and we have Ghana and Uruguay. I'll do knockout stuff coming up on Friday. I'm actually going to Miami this weekend. If anybody's there and got a ticket to Space Paradise, let me know, because they're very expensive at the moment. Or to Afterlife, that would be cool on Friday. Probably no one has any idea what I'm talking about, but if you do, slide in DMs if you want. Anywho, so we're gonna go to Group H. So Portugal on 6 points, Ghana on 3, South Korea on 1, Uruguay on 1. So Portugal have clinched their spot in the next round. Ghana could potentially beat them with a victory and a lot of goal differential, while Portugal also loses to South Korea. That's pretty long odds of that all happening. I think Portugal's got a 3 goal differential. Ghana is 0. And I think after seeing what France decided, I think Portugal will probably follow the same type of format, the same strategy, and they're going to rest a lot of people. So we'll get to that match in a second. So Ghana on 3 points, Uruguay on 1. And they're 2 goals different in goal differential, but ultimately Uruguay, if they win, then they'll have 1 more point than Ghana, so it won't really matter. But Ghana are a 3/4 goal underdog. The over/under is 2.5, and Ghana, I expected to be very defensive in this tournament. Did not expect them to be 5 goals scored and 5 goals conceded through 2 matches. And I've paid the price for it. I had a pretty good tournament, but certainly hasn't gone great with predicting Ghana. Though I did ride them a fair amount in the Africa qualifiers when they knocked out the Cote d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, and also Nigeria. But this is going to be a test because Uruguay, their backs are against the wall. The nice part for Ghana is they have some attacking, scoring punch. Uruguay have not really shown much of that. Edinson Cavani finally started after Luis Suarez started the first matchup or first match day, and didn't really get better either way. I don't know who you can trust to score. Uruguay have no goals scored this tournament. Goalless draw with South Korea, and then the 2-0 loss to Portugal. It's something that I noticed in the CONMEBOL qualifying in South America, that they just really couldn't score goals. And they had to go on a huge run after sacking their longtime manager Tavares. If I think I got that name right. But they brought in a new guy and he went on a huge run. Part of it was against a nice schedule, but they needed it. And I don't know that they're like talented enough to just turn it on, because they've got a lot of really old players on that team. I mean, Darwin Nunez has been great, but hasn't really done much. Hasn't looked like he knows how to play with Suarez or Edinson Cavani, because they've always been the strike partners forever and ever and ever. This new manager did kind of go with choosing one of them, which I think was a good idea. But it hasn't looked very fluid offensively, and I'm just still kind of nervous about what they actually have in them, because I do have some shares of them and some pools that I'm in. So Ghana getting 3/4 of a goal. So they lose by a goal, you'll get half your stake back. I don't like to think about that or advocate a play based on a loss not being so damaging, but current juice is pretty even right now. I can't imagine this is going to fall to a half. I think we'll probably close here, but also possible to hit +1, because Uruguay are definitely the more popular team in betting markets. Everyone knows Suarez and Cavani because they've been playing for so long, which I think is probably not a good sign. If you know the players really well, it probably means they're old. But the problem is I generally want to, if I'm playing an under, I want to go under 2.5, but I just feel like Ghana haven't shown, I mean, they defended so well against Portugal for 63 minutes and then Ronaldo took a dive, but they took a 2-0 lead and really kind of killed the under themselves against Korea, and then surrendered 2 goals and then finally got a late one. It's almost like I feel like I'd rather back Ghana getting that 3/4 than the under 2.5. And it's partly a play against Uruguay, who have to open up and run down the pitch and try to score goals. And honestly, they might get that first one, but they are -2 goal differential. And who knows what's going to happen with Korea in the other matchup, who start 1 goal differential better at -1. So there's a lot of scenarios, I think, for Ghana to be a good play to look at. We'll see if it hits +1, but I like that a lot more than I like the under 2.5. Next is South Korea and Portugal. So Portugal is clinched essentially. It's just dependent on whether they get first or second. If Ghana win, then it gets a little complicated. But South Korea are currently fighting to advance. It's not looking great for them, but they've got a shot for sure. They need Ghana to lose, and they can win, and then they'll get through. South Korea currently a 3/4 goal underdog, which is pretty sizable considering Portugal's lack of interest, I think I'll say, for this one. I mean, it's not guaranteed that they're France, the same type of thing with putting out a lineup that doesn't make a lot of sense. But I imagine they got to be saving Bruno Fernandes, also Cristiano Ronaldo, trying to save as many of those guys for the knockout stages as possible. It's important to get the 1 seed and to avoid Brazil. in the next round. So maybe that does dictate their starting lineup a little bit, but I think they're pretty safe in general. So I like the underdog here a lot, especially because South Korea are built to counterattack. They play similarly to Japan. I don't mean to lump two East Asian countries together, but they kind of remind me of similar things. I think Japan's a little bit better organized, but they don't have a Heung-min Son. And so that 3/4 of a goal underdog, I mean, it gives a fair amount of safety because if they lose by 1, you get your money back. South Korea will probably have to push a little bit more than they normally would or did in the earlier match days, but they also fell behind 2-0 to Ghana and did a fairly great job to equalize. So they have some goals in them. And Portugal, I've never really felt that confident about them scoring. So I think for where I sit in this one, I really like South Korea getting 3/4 of a goal. And I lean towards under 2.5, though it does feel like that is going to be a little bit complicated. If Portugal score, then South Korea need to just go balls to the wall and score as much as they can because they need 3 points. I don't know. That's not great for the under, obviously, but it also could be one of those things where there's a lot of pressure on South Korea and they might not be able to muster that much. 2 goals or 1-1 draw or something like that would eliminate Korea. I do worry about the corner kick in the 98th minute where their goalkeeper is going up the pitch, but not always are those converted into goals. So we'll see what happens there. But I do think I probably lean to Korea again more than the under because I think that kind of sets up better than trying to avoid goals because they need them. And they're playing a team that's not really as interested as they would be because everything's almost locked up at this point. Last but not least, we'll go through Group G. I'll drop a promo code for pregame as well. And then, of course, the ultimate best bet, as I've been calling it on my Betting the Pitch podcast. It's a little weird collision of parallel universes, but here we are. So Brazil on 6 points, Switzerland on 3, Cameroon on 1, and Serbia on 1. A lot of people thought that Brazil and Switzerland would go through initially. That win in the opener against Cameroon with really one showing of offense has been huge and has stood up so far for the Swiss. We'll see how far that goes because they're big kind of rival to see who gets through. There's a lot of drama between Serbia and Switzerland, which if you don't know, look up the Albanian Eagle celebration from Xherdan Shaqiri and also Granit Xhaka from, I think, Russia 2018. That'll be worth it. And there's a lot of drama behind it, but at me if you really want to know. I'm exhausted, so I'm not going to go through that on this podcast. In terms of scenarios, so Switzerland can get through with a draw. Maybe, I guess, depending. Cameroon would need to beat Brazil and do it handily. So I guess that's possible, but unlikely since I think Brazil are the strongest team in the world. They are 3 goals better than Switzerland, so they're not clinched, but I think they're going to play the France and what likely is a Portugal strategy and rest some players or rotate. Neymar's not going to be there, and I think that impacted their offense a fair amount against the Swiss in the last round. But one of those, if you had taken my picks overnight and bet Switzerland plus 1.25, you would have won, where I actually ended up taking the +1, figuring that there'd be money coming in Brazil overnight. I was wrong, and then I took a push, which is better than a loss, but disappointing because that's some ROI left on the table. Everyone who subscribed or bought overnight, good for you. But Cameroon getting 1.25 goals right now from Brazil. It's just it shows the differences between these two teams. I feel like Cameroon have been better than expected. They got that huge draw with Serbia, which unfortunately I think did more for eliminating Serbia potentially than it did for Cameroon. But they got a point that they needed, and that's something to hold on to. And if they get 3 points here in a huge upset of upsets, they could potentially hop over Switzerland. They need to avenge a 1-goal differential, but Cameroon technically are 1 goal better off than Serbia. So not impossible. Could be certainly something that happens. In terms of over under, we get 2.75. It's really hard for me to want to go against Brazil again after doing it on Switzerland. I got to say that was pretty nerve wracking. 90 plus 10 minutes or 14 or 20, whatever they throw on. I do think the Cameroon have a little bit more attacking talent than you expect in a lot of African countries. That's still something I've been concerned about is the defense, but they've only allowed 3 goals in 2 games. If they allow 1 here, lose 1-0, that will be a cover, which would be huge and also would hit the under, obviously. But I do worry that Cameroon are going to try to stay in this tournament and they're going to push forward and play really aggressively, especially if they go behind. So that makes 1.25 feel less comfortable. Maybe this hits 1.5 before it kicks off, but even then, you might want 2 goals to feel any sort of comfort, because if things don't go well, which I don't expect them to, I don't know that Cameroon are going to be able to pierce the Brazilian back line. We'll see what the lineup looks like, but Brazil has so many strong players that I don't even think it matters if Marquinhos is not playing. And I feel like the more aggressive Cameroon have to be, Brazil is going to slice them up. So I think I have some interest in Cameroon getting 1.25, soon to be 1.5 goals, since all the juice is on Brazil right now. But even that, and under 2.75 or 3, I think this could get this. There could be a lot of scoring in this one, which is good for the fan, but not good for my dog and under strategy so far. It's worked pretty well in this tournament. Serbia and Switzerland, they're currently a pick 'em right now. Serbia are favored. They were favored initially, and actually Switzerland were getting 1/4 goal. Which was weird to me, because Serbia with 3 points does eliminate Switzerland, because they'll jump over them in points. It doesn't matter about goal differential. This should be a really competitive match. I'm looking forward to seeing Switzerland getting 1/4 goal. I'm hoping it comes back. I'm also a little bit interested, more so than usual, in just to pick them, because I think that Serbia are going to have to. They're an offensive team, but they're going to have to push forward. And unless they get an early goal, they're going to be leaving themselves wide open at the back. I didn't like how they coughed up that lead against Cameroon. I think Switzerland have proven that they can defend. They've done it all over the UEFA Nations League competitions, and I think showed it pretty well against Brazil, besides that slicing volley from Casemiro, who's an awesome goal scorer and has definitely stabbed me in the heart plenty of times, twisted it and pulled it out and then stabbed me again or whatever to cover a spread on Real Madrid. But it was nice that he only got me for a push, but it was still pretty brutal, because I thought we might escape 0-0. I trust the Swiss defense. I think they're going to be formidable, and it's going to be hard for Serbia. You got that crazy story from Russia 2018. I urge you to look it up. But I mean, Swiss on counterattack, Real Embolo, or I guess they don't have as much pace as you'd think. Ruben Vargas, certainly, but he is way more likely to kick it over the goal into the stands for 3 points, as opposed to kicking it in the goal where you actually get 3 points. I feel like he's more of a field goal kicker, a fast one at that. But he probably should be in that lineup for counterattacking reasons. Real Embolo has been great for Monaco, and so I think he's on form. I don't know, after watching Mitrovic, he didn't look great. And I swear the amount of goals that were conceded, from I think it was 3-1 up to then, kicking themselves. And unfortunately, Serbia did this in the same group of Switzerland last time. And I feel like we're just repeating ourselves all over again. So I lean to Switzerland at pick'em right now, with almost getting odds, -101 bet online. Over under is 2.5. And I think the Swiss are going to bunker. And if they go up 1-0, that means the bunkers only get deeper, because then Serbia will need 2. I don't know if Serbia take a lead, though, then it becomes a much more open game. I don't necessarily think that Serbia will bunker the same way that Switzerland would. But they'll still be defending us for their lives as much as they can. I'd much rather, if I'm having an under, look for Switzerland to defend, so they take a lead or they hold off on and it's goalless for a long time. But lean to Switzerland as the underdog, and also to under 2.5. So here we go. Now I'm going to read a promo, which I just saw something that has now confused me, but for the soccer pod, part 2 of match day 3, I'll go right now. We have the promo code WING15, like a winger minus the ER, or a buffalo wing minus the buffalo, WING15. You get 15% off for all listeners of the European Soccer Podcast, or World Cup edition of RJ Bell Stream Preview. It's good for 7 days from the podcast release. Like I said, my picks are up as we speak right now. My eyes are about to close, but they're available. I'm trying to get them up in the night before, so that everyone, or earlier in the night before, so everyone can have them for. Then again, you're not having to wake up for 4 a.m. this time, at least Central Time. You're not. But anyway, WING15, get 15% off. All listeners of this episode, anything you find on the pregame.com website. It could be my picks, could be AJ Hoffman, who I do a college basketball podcast with, Steve Fezzik, who's done a ton of great winning. Only back-to-back champion of the formerly Las Vegas Hilton Super Contest, which has changed its name 40 times since then. But also there's a promo code CHAMP for $26 off the rest of college football. And that reduces, I guess, Okay, I don't exactly know what I'm advertising here, so there we go. Use the promo code CHAMP if you get $26 off the rest of college football. It's the same price as the bowl package early bird with a bonus week. It's live through December 5th, so you got 4 days to use it. You can get college football picks this weekend, and then also I think that comes with the early bird package for the bowl games. Unfortunately, now that I've kind of learned that I don't have an edge, so I don't really bet college football, it's hard for me to interpret that from an email. But there we go, people. Champ for $26 off the rest of CFB. You get to include, I think, the bowl package as well. Maybe that's where you're saving $26. So you get the last week of the season, plus you get the bowl package, or you can use Wing 15. Give me some credit because I think it matters for each podcast. Help me with my stats, please. Follow the Twitter account, subscribe on YouTube. Follow, subscribe, do the things on Apple Podcasts, both for Betting the Pitch and also for the RJ Bell Dream Preview podcast network. That's important stuff, and we appreciate it. But without further ado, I need to make a best bet here, and I'll just recap just for everyone who's been struggling with us this whole time. Don't think I got much that I'm going to play with in the morning on Thursday, Croatia, Belgium, nor Canada, Morocco. But I do really like Costa Rica getting 2 3/4 goals, under 3 3/4 against Germany, dogging under in that one. Also dogging under in Japan and Spain. Japan getting 1 1/4. Over under is 2 3/4. As for Friday, I'm interested in Ghana more so than the total. I'm interested in South Korea more so than the total. Not sure what to do with Cameroon or under. And then Switzerland, I'm waiting to see them hit a quarter. That's the thing I'm most interested in. I do like under there as well. But for my best bet on this episode, and I'll get this out of here. Again, follow me, the real_G Warner. My picks are coming out there, or you can get them the night before via subscription. There's a World Cup one going out there. You can get a reduced price to get all my picks coming out the rest of the tournament. Still got 20 days left or something like that. It's gonna be crazy. I need to sleep. Probably never gonna happen. But my best bet for this episode, I think I'm 6-0-1 in the last 7. I wish Mackenzie was here to verify that, but I'm going to go with the Japan-Spain under 2 3/4. I also really like Japan getting 1 1/4 goals from Spain, but I think there's a little more safety in that big total. Japan could contribute here. I wouldn't be shocked if they beat Spain. It'd be a big upset. I mean, almost paying 8-1, but I think under 2 3/4 makes a lot of sense. Spain 1-2-0 covers. A 2-1 loss will cost you half a unit, and I'll end my streak. But I think that's going to be hard to see. I think a Spain 1-0 victory is very likely here, or even a 1-1, and both end up moving through. So Japan, Spain, under 2 3/4. That'll be my best bet for this episode. Thanks, everyone, for joining, especially if you're live right now with me. I appreciate that. Like, subscribe, give the 5 stars, leave a comment, review, slide in my DMs if you're going to Miami this weekend, if you're going to be there. Love some tips on something to eat, plus figure out how to figure out the nightlife scene, because I don't know how the heck I'm going to figure out the tickets. Anyway, thanks for coming, and we'll talk soon.